What is the crystal? What is it? This is the first time in a long time we've been able to actually enjoy speculating about World of Warcraft. And even if you're a WoW hater, which is fine and deserved, by the way, consider this as a different game and then listen to what has to be said. I don't think I've been this intrigued in the World of Warcraft story ever. What is it? What is this thing? Why is it turning purple? Why did the sword? I'm getting ahead of myself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hallowfall. This is the zone that we knew something really weird was going on. We previewed it on our main channel video. We could see it. You could get inside. There was some very weird things going on. It looked very religious. It was like Revendreth, but like drenched in light. And now we finally got to get in there. I'm a little late to this one because we have so much going on at the moment with PreachCon 2024. There's about 10 tickets left. You guys have done extraordinary. So good. We have got confirmed guests now. Annie Fuchsia's going to be there. Nobble's going to be there. Fat Boss Alex, OK Mage, Mr. GM. The list goes on, as well as a bunch of secret guests that are first-timers. If you don't know the rules of PreachCon, if one of the guests has never been before, shh is the rule. But let's get into this. I'm going to be a little vague about the story, but it's the intrigue of this zone is everything. And this is really setting up what is going on in Azeroth. Because, and this is why I'm so excited about this story, there's more than just the sword pierced it and the soul of Azeroth is calling out to us, right? So we had that in the trailer with Anduin and Thrall, is that it feels like the heart of Azeroth, the soul of Azeroth was like calling out for help. But as we dig deeper, there's other things that are beneath the surface that we're like, wait a minute. I know why we're here in general, but what is that? What is that? And that is the story of Hallowfall. That is the story. When we get there, there's a conflict going on. Basically, the general idea is that the people of Arathi, the Arathi Empire, was sailing across the ocean to find God, find their place to settle home, and then suddenly they were teleported. They were just whisked away deep into the core of Azeroth, where they just emerged into this cavern, bathed in light by this enormous crystal that is protruding through the ceiling of the cavern, which they named God. It's called Beladril or something. They call it the Star at first, and it was like it was their star, and now they've given it a name because it must be conscious. And that's where the story starts to get interesting, because it chose them. It teleported them down there, and they are aware. It's like, well, this very unlikely to be random, because no one else has appeared there. So it must have some sort of consciousness going on to it. And why? And they obviously found a very religious, deep sense of meaning, is that this must have brought us here to do something, to worship it or to enact something. And obviously you don't know why, because it's not directly communicating with you. So they try to guess what that thing could be, and from there religion is formed, which is, you know, pretty spot on. And the writing is so much better here, because it's like, yeah, I could totally see why this would happen. We got teleported down here. It could have been coincidence. Perhaps it just misfired and happened to get these people, whatever the hell it is. And it just bathed these people in light for 15 years until the Day of Darkness. What's the Day of Darkness? And a lot of people have been going, it's the tip of the sword. It's not. The Day of Darkness is when the sword penetrated Azeroth. And then the crystal changed. It turned void. And now it turns void every 3 hours. And very similar to... I don't know if you guys have ever seen a show... Crap, I've forgotten the name. There's a show... I think it's called Next or something like that. Or... Crap, I'll try and find it. I'll put it in the notes. But it's a show where at night everybody has to hide inside because these weird creatures come out of the forest and patrol the town unless they put these talismans over the door. So darkness is a big no-no. And that's what's happened to these people. They've spent like a decade plus bathed in light. Then the Day of Darkness came when the sword penetrated Azeroth. And now the crystal keeps turning purple and void. And it is gorgeous. It's so spectacular. And when that happens, void creatures start appearing, including like leviathans and things like that. Like really wacky things start happening until the light returns. And in the zone, every 3 hours, the crystal will change for about 15 minutes. And then it'll go back to light. First little mini criticism here. Blizzard, if you're watching this, which I know you guys do, please, for the love of God, actually plunge the zone into darkness for 15 minutes. Because it's not quite coming across how spooky and weird this is supposed to be. I'm not saying, like, abject darkness, like have plants and stuff glow or lanterns at the town, but I would really look at Act 2 of Baldur's Gate 3, where they nailed the idea of how fearful the darkness can be. And you want that. I would even potentially include lanterns for the player or things like that, so they have a personal glow around them. It's only for 15 minutes every 3 hours, and it would add so much to this zone for the darkness to actually be dark. Because it's not right now. When the purple's out, it's still really bright and okay. And everyone's like terrified. The people are running inside. Like, get out, the void's coming, the darkness is here. I would really love it if that was reflected more in the zone. Because one thing is for sure, this place is astonishingly beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's so good. And the fact that they've placed this entire cathedral at the pinnacle of the mountain in there, overlooking the star with this huge cathedral window that looks straight out at the star. And you're like, this is so good. Like, being in the zone itself is fantastic. There's lots of good details, like all the plants that grow there all grow towards, like they would in real life, right? Plants grow towards the light, so they all lean, regardless of where they are, towards the star. So the star is providing energy. Whatever it is. But what we're down there and we're dealing with conflict is that there's the military force. And the military force, they're always under constant attack by the Nerubians. And the military force kind of feels like we should just hunker down and just, like, we're losing troops by sort of moving to the outer edges of the zone away from the star's lights. Like, the further we go away from the star's light, the more dangerous things are. We should hunker down and sort of protect ourselves. And then we have the Lamplighters. And the Lamplighters keep these towers of sacred flame lit at the borders of Hallowfall to push back the Nerubians, where the light of the star doesn't quite reach, to keep them at the edges. And a lot of Lamplighters die doing this, but they truly believe, like, if we let the Nerubians encroach further, we're all going to die. So the Lamplighters run and risk their lives in the darkest areas of Hallowfall in order to keep the Nerubians pushed back, and the light's constantly going out. It needs to be relit. And now, of course, in a religious setting, and one thing I kind of like, although sure, it's leaning towards the people who worship the darkness to be the baddies, maybe, is that it actually makes sense. Like, although the writings and scrolls that you find from this cult of the darkness are, you know, sort of mad, they're not entirely unfounded, isn't that? One of them is really clear, and like, we've spent the last 15 years worshipping the light, bathing in the light. Perhaps that was wrong. Maybe the darkness is the way it was. Maybe we were brought here to shut the crystal down. We don't really know the crystal is what brought us here. We don't know that. We don't know what brought us here. Perhaps we're here to embrace the darkness, although the darkness does inevitably result in death, which is the bad side. But there's a sort of logic to it. It's like, we did this for like 15 years and nothing's happened, and maybe now we need to turn towards the void. So you can see why people would maybe think that. You know, you've been trying it for a decade. Children have been born and raised into teenagers by this time, and nothing's changed. We haven't done anything. Nothing's grown. We haven't been empowered. We haven't been blessed. We haven't had communication. And they're starting to worship the darkness instead and trying to turn the sacred flames purple, which is a part of the story. So the military and the Lamplighters have our odds. We have a cult. So there's lots of conflict that is all, and dare I say it in a lot of WoW story, logical. It all makes sense. It all fits. It's like, yeah, I totally get where everybody is coming from here. Yeah, I can see that we still have the goodies and the baddies, but it's not like I'm evil. You know, like kind of nonsense that we see sometimes is like, I'm just pure bad guy. It's like, no, like these kind of have a point as to where they're going from. I like that. You want to empathize with the villains in some way. You don't agree with them, but you can empathize with their position. And I empathize with the military. I empathize with the Lamplighters. I mean, I would probably lean towards the Lamplighters. It's like, the more ground we give up, the closer they're going to get, and they're just going to keep coming further and further in. All this is great. All this is wonderful stuff, as well as the beauty of the zone. And of course, the big question is, what is this crystal? Obviously, there's lots of theories out there that it's got something to do with the Naru. It's all that kind of stuff. My personal feeling, though, is obviously the Sword of Sargeras does not have any void associations. So why did the sword trigger some sort of void reaction within this crystal? My personal feeling is they're going with an iceberg idea, which is the bit we see ain't really what it is, right? If you know, you guys should know about icebergs, is the bit that you see poking out of the water or whatever, the bit that's scary, the bit that the Titanic saw, ain't the dangerous bit. It's the mountain that's like below the ocean that you can't see that's really going to screw you up. And I'm wondering if this, because we're very deep now, we're very, very deep into the core of Azeroth, is that this bit that's poking out, well, on the other side of this bit is something really horrendously bad. And that's where I'm leaning. That's what I see is like, I think this is a bit sus because this crystal is penetrating through the earth. What's on the other side? We don't know. For all we know, it's a void prison or something like that, or some links to Muru and all the things that happen there with Entropius. There's a lot of things that it could possibly be. But that's the whole point of what I'm talking about with where we are with the War Within is this is really interesting. It's super intriguing. This is more interesting to me than what's going on with like xal'atath and the Nerubian Zone. Nerubian Zone looks amazing, and I assume we're getting that on Friday. But like, I'm like, what is this thing though? And that's the intrigue we need, because my gut feeling right now, I'm still fleshing this out, and we haven't had the whole story yet. We've had like 3 out of 4 chapters of the story that's going to be the launch story. Is it really feels like we lose at the end of the War Within. It's likely that we lose, and then likely a glimmer of hope in Midnight, and then, you know, the ultimate victory, because we need to win, otherwise, you know, the game shuts down in the Titans. So I feel like we're in for a really bad time story-wise, which I'm totally fine with. It's why you set up a multi-tier saga. It's okay to finish an expansion on the losing turf, because you know the next part is coming. You know that, like, okay, there's going to be a glimmer of hope. I just really hope, and this has been a big hot topic discussion right now, is that glimmer of hope. There's a big, obvious slap in the face sort of, I was going to say Michael Bay there, but that's not the person I'm thinking of. The guy who's recently made that Warhammer ripoff movie, Rebel Moon. I can't remember his goddamn name, but he made like the awful Superman and stuff. Zack Snyder. Yes, Zack Snyder. It's very obvious that, especially in Hallowfall, it's highlighted literally like they painting a picture in front of you. The Anduin is scared of channeling the light. He's fearful. He doesn't feel worthy. He doesn't feel good enough. And we just know, like, with this build-up is we have characters in Hallowfall who are manually using the light, and we also have Illyria who's using the void, which is really upsetting a lot of the Lamplighters and the, you know, the very light-based military of these religions. Like, this chick has void in her. Not cool with that, but they are open to discussion. They're not like flat out rejecting Illyria. They're just like, huh, so are you okay, kind of thing, with what's going on. And they have to, you know, like change the lights back to the light instead of the void, and Anduin can't help. He's like flaccid. Ultimately, he's impotent. Like, and I don't mean that just in a sexual way. He's impotent towards the light. And we know we're going to have this, like, Akuma, Super Saiyan, supersonic moment where he's just going to be like, pff, radiant light is going to shoot out of him or something like that, and he's going to pop off. That is obviously coming in some sort of superhero moment, which is fine. I'm actually okay with it. A lot of people like snore, predictable. I'm like, honestly, I do agree with a lot of writers. Like, Stephen King's talked about this a lot, and George Martin especially, because of how many people theorized about where the Song of Fire and Ice was going, in that you should be able to predict the ending, because we did put the clues in there that lead to that. Like, any writer who leaves breadcrumbs to where the story is concluding, who then sees that people have predicted it, so they change it to something completely absurd, and it's like, well, none of this breadcrumbs that you left, clearly, like, don't add up anymore. Like, none of this makes any sense. I agree with them. It's like, yeah, the breadcrumbs are there, even though it's very obvious in this case. In that Anduin is going to be the hero of this story, right? And he should be. He is the future of the Alliance. But right now, in the eyes of many people, he's an impotent loser. Nobody has faith in an impotent loser, right? I'm a professional wrestling fan. If your hero is like, oh, I can't do it, then it's hard to back those people. But I hope we have a really steady growth of Anduin. Like, he's going to gradually move forward. Right now, it's very in your face and on the nose about his weakness and impotence, but if they could gently sort of push him to be the hero he needs to be, that would be great. That would be really, really good. I just hope, coming back to my point, that the person who tips him over the edge and shows him that his redemption is powerful is not Sylvanas, probably going to be Sylvanas. I mean, Sylvie's definitely coming back, right? She's definitely coming back. She's a fan favorite for a lot of people, despite what people might generally say about her now, but she also sells an absolute crap ton of merchandise. She's a big figure. Patty is an amazing voice actor. They want Sylvanas back, so I am just hoping it's not like we have to go 1-800-Sylvanas, and she'll be like, I'm just got 5 more dailies to do in the mall. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'm just finishing up my daily quest. And then she heads back and she gives Anduin the power to come back. So we'll see. Like, if I could be redeemed, you could be redeemed, right? Your deeds were nowhere near as bad as what I did, and I am here fighting for hope. You know, something along those lines. But if it does go that way, fair enough. We'll see what goes on. But needless to say, this has been extraordinary. I'm talking about this in a way I would talk about an FF14 storyline, because there's intrigue, there's mystery. I actually don't think they're going to pay off this story, maybe not even in this expansion. I could already foresee, like, the end of the War Within leading into midnight, when, you know, it's darkest, as the crystal plummeting through Hallowfall, because the way they've set the zone up is you can't get near the crystal. The zone is positioned, like, on the landmass over a giant lake / ocean type process where the crystal is in the distance. So they could easily change that background. That's the important thing. They can change that. So whether the crystal comes through, taking the sword out, cracks the Azeroth itself, you know, something along those lines, and then this thing comes through and we're like, oh no, oh god. That would be great. That would be really cool. But that's my thoughts on this. Love to see your thoughts on this. A little bit of WoW speculation. We don't get to do it often. What do you think this is? And where do you think it goes? Because I am genuinely interested at this point. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in a bit. Bye.